We should talk about the midterm exam. Yes? Did we talk about the midterm exam in this class? Okay, the midterm exam, your midterm exam is about it's about 2 weeks later. So you have your exam in 2 weeks, Azar 29 or December 19. Azar 29 or December 19. Let me write. December 19 at 8 p.m. Iran time. So this is the date and time of your exam. Before your exam, a week before your exam, I will give you some sample questions. Mr. Tahir, 19, December 19. December 19. Monday. On Monday? Monday, December 19. Monday, yes, December 20. December 20. Yes, December 20. Okay. Okay, it's December 20. And before the exam, I will give you some sample questions. Questions are in two types. We have multiple choices questions. We have multiple choices questions, and also we have descriptive questions. So we have two types of questions, multiple choices questions and descriptive questions. The time for exam is about 1 hour. So we have 1 hour, you have 1 hour time for your exam. If there was any question during your exam, if you had any question with network or any other problems, then send a message to me in Darsa website. If you had any problem, send a message to me. Okay? Abbas, not 2 hours, but I will extend it, but not 2 hours. And for the content of the exam, your exam includes slide number 1, slide number 2, slide number 3, and slide number 4. 4 slides, 4 first slides of the course are in your midterm exam. As Zobaidi, the next week. In the next week, I will send you the sample questions. Multiple choices. Mr. Zobaid, multiple choices. Let me show you. So your exam is like this. Some questions are multiple choices, like these. Multiple choices, and some of them are descriptive. Okay, we have two types of questions. Descriptive questions and multiple choices questions. Descriptive, you should write down the answers, a paragraph for each question, and multiple choices. You should select from the options A, B, C, D. multiple questions, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. Okay. Is there any question about your midterm exam? If you have any question about your midterm exam, please ask. Yes, Mr. Taher, I will send you some sample questions. Those questions are for another lesson, or for another course. Those questions are there for another course. Let's go to the, let me share the next slide chapter. I will share another slide number 5. So I'm uploading. Yes, Mr. Abbas, you can write down the answers on the text box below each question, or you can write down Okay, I'm still waiting for the slides to be uploaded. Okay, the next session we were talking about the XP process and the strengths and weaknesses of the XP process. The strengths of the XP process are the XP in the XP because we use pair programming, we enforce the string length standards on coding. So all the developers in the team can change in the pairs, can move around the pairs. We have early and frequent releases in the XP process. In the XP process, we have a first release in about 3 weeks, and after that, we have frequent releases in the maintain phase. Requirements in the XP process are allowed to evolve over time. We allow the requirements to change and be updated. The development engine is an iterative activity which is governed by planning and reviewing. So we have always planning before each iteration, and after that we have reviewing for reflection. We have explicit coverage of maintenance phase, and also we have a separate dev phase in the XP process. We have always continuous validation and integration in each iteration, and we have refactoring through the development engine. So in the XP process, refactoring is an important activity because we wanted to keep the code as simple as possible. And we want to have a simple code so all the members of the development team can move around the pairs, can change their pairs. Another one of the strengths and the weaknesses of the XP process. XP process is just like other processes have some weaknesses. The most one is that the process in the XP is rather vague, and some believe that it's just a typical example, not a process. Also, the XP was more intended as a set of principles and practices rather than a methodology. We have limited evidence of scalability for this process. The XP cannot be extended to be used for bigger projects and also for complicated or critical projects. Seamlessness is not addressed in the XP process. The development is, we have some hiccups in the XP process, especially from the user stories to code and to test. So we don't have a smooth action. We have some jumps, some hiccups between these activities. Another weakness is that the XP process requires the use of automated tools, especially for testing, acceptance testing, for regression testing, because we want to maintain the collective code ownership. It's a hard task, so we should use automation tools. We don't have a clear-cut design effort in the XP process. It is also a model-phobic process, just like the other agile processes. And also, we don't have modeling in the XP process except for the CRC cards. And also, we have a lack of formalism in the XP process. So these are the strengths and weaknesses of the XP process. If you have any question on the XP process, please ask your question. After that, we can go to the next slide on the crystal methodologies. So if you have any question on XP, please ask your question. Okay, Mr. Az-Zubaydi. Uh, the difference? No, the owner don't has to look after the code. The code is shared among all developers, so everybody can change every part of the code. The code ownership collection is a repository, not a task. Okay, better than what, Mr. Al-Yasari? Mr. Al-Yasari, XP can be better than what? All the processes has their own weaknesses and their own strengths. So for some projects, XP is good. For some projects, XP is not good. Mr. Zovaid, it means that we don't have a design activity. Let me show you. In the XP process, we don't have a separate design effort. Here in the process, we don't have a design activity. We just have a little design here in the iterations. Okay, so it's a very it's not a very independent activity. We don't have enough design. We just want to code. We just want to code and test, code and test. Okay, Mr. Zovaid? Thank you, Mr. Al-Yasiri, for your question. Thank you, Mr. Az-Zubaydi, for your question. Thank you, Mr. Zovaid, for your question. Okay, Mr. Zovaid, so we have planning, an independent phase for planning, an independent phase for maintenance, but we don't have an independent phase for design. Miss Arafiq, no, XP is not the best. We don't have the best. Okay, Mr. Zovaid. Okay, Mr. Zovaid. Okay. Miss Arafiq, we don't have a best process. Different processes are good for different projects. So sometimes XP is the best, sometimes Scrum is the best, sometimes RUP is the best. Okay, Miss Arafiq? For different projects, we have different methodologies. Yes, Mr. Zovaid, the design is left to the developers. Developers here in pair programming should do a quick design, a quick and very small design. We don't have a big phase, an independent phase for design. Yes, it's correct. Yes, Mr. Zovaid. Okay, Mr. Zovaid. Okay, any other question? If you have any other question, please ask. Okay, Mr. Arafi. Yes, each method has its own advantages and also its own weaknesses. Mr. Obaid, in the first phase we have prototyping. Yes, in the first phase we have prototyping. It's correct. Mr. Arafi, we choose it based on the project and the team. Developers choose. Developers choose the methodology based on the project, based on the team, based on the customer, and different characteristics of that special project, based on the development organization. It depends to all the stakeholders. Okay, Miss Arafi. Mr. Abid, I didn't understand your question. Yes, Mr. Al-Emar, it is possible. Yes, it is possible. Mr. Abid, no, we plan before each phase. Plan, we plan, we plan for each iteration of each phase. We plan before that. Okay, Mr. Abid, we plan for each iteration. We have constraints on the duration of each iteration. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Abid, for your question. Thank you, Mr. Al-Emar, for your question. Okay, so if there is not any more questions, then we can go to the next methodology, the crystal methodology. Okay, I'm opening another account and Excuse me, I had problem with internet. Can you hear my voice now? Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, Excuse me, I have some problem with the internet, I think, and with my microphone. Okay, Mr. Ali Asari, you can hear my voice, right? Okay, I think internet is very weak right now. Thank you, Mr. Hossain. Thank you. Okay, for your questions, yes, Mr. Al-Emar. Reduce materials of the exam. Okay, we can have only slide number 1 and 2 and 3, okay? Just 3 slides. Is it okay for you? Is it okay? Okay, so we can keep the slide number 4 for the final exam. Okay, yes, Mr. Ali. Yes, Mr. Ali Yasari. We don't have any other classes. Let me check. Mr. Ali Yasari. Okay, I will send the question. Okay. Yes, Mr. Tahir. Slide number 1, 2, and 3. Mr. Abid, if you had any problem, please send a message in the ARSA website for me. Okay, if you had any problem during your exam, please send a message to me. Okay, don't worry if you had any problem with internet. If you had any problem in your exam, send a message to me. Okay, so we can start our new slide on the crystal methodologies. And if I change my network connection, so I think we don't have any problem again. But I will record this class too, and I will upload the offline videos. So if there was any problem again. I hope we don't have any problem, but if there was, I will upload the offline videos. So let's go to the crystal methodologies. Miss Rafiq, uh, if you had any problem, send your answers to Telegram. To Telegram, okay? If you had any problem, send the answers to my Telegram account at mb.kho. Okay? Okay, so let's start the crystal. Okay, Miss Rafiq. Okay, Mr. Al-Ma'muri. Thank you very much. You're welcome, Miss Hossain. Okay, let's start the crystal. Another methodology from the agile methodologies is the crystal methodology. The Crystal methodology was first proposed in 1998 as a family of methodologies. New members of this family of methodologies were also defined in 2001 and 2004. The Crystal family of methodologies are based on this belief that different projects call for different methodologies. So we need flexible methodologies for different projects. Flexibility is addressed in this methodology. Groups review and development provide flexibility. We have continuous reviews and revisions on the process. That's to support different projects. In Crystal methodologies, we define different categories of projects. We categorize projects according to the criticality and also the size. So we have two factors for categorizing projects. The first one is the criticality of the system that is going to produce the final software that we are going to produce using the Crystal methodology. And the next factor is the size of the project. So the two factors are the size of the project and the criticality of the final software. Based on levels of criticality, we define four. In these levels, if any failure occurs, we have different types of losses. In the first level, which is the less critical, if any failure occurs, we will lose comfort. Level C, if any failure occurs in these type of systems, we will lose comfort. So it's the less critical. The next level D, if any failure occurs, we will lose discretionary money. So in level D, we have systems that failures may cause losing discretionary money. So it's more critical than level C, but not very critical. The next level is level E. It's called level E. In this level, cause losing essential money. So if failure occurs in this type of systems, we will lose essential money. The last level, which is the highest critical level, is level L. These are also called safety critical levels because if any failure occurs, we may lose some lives, human lives. So failures in these systems can cause losing some lives. So these systems are the most critical types of systems. We also call them safety critical systems because failures can cause safety problems. For example, we can name the automatic pilot of airplanes, softwares for pilot automation in airplanes, if any failure occurs in that software, it can cause the plane to crash and losing the lives of passengers. The complexity can also be measured by the number of the people that are involved and also by the level of criticality of the final software that is going to produce in this project. The main reason for being complex with this factor is the communication that must be uh, exist between the people that are involved in the project. So if we have a large size team, we require heavier or more complex methodologies. So if we have a big size team, we need heavier methodologies than for smaller teams, because coordinating different people and coordinating lots of people and also having communication between them is a complex and a challenging task. Also, if we have a project that is more critical, the level of criticality is high in that project, then we also need a more complex, heavier methodology. So in crystal methodology, we categorize the projects based on their size, because bigger sizes can increase complexity and small size teams has less complexity. For each one of the family members of the crystal methodologies, we have a color. This color shows the level of complexity in that methodology. If we have a darker color, it means that it's a heavier methodology. By now, we have these colors: clear, yellow, orange, red, maroon, blue, and violet. The first ones are not heavy methodology, but the last one, the darker colors, are for heavier methodology. If another usage context arises, then we can propose new family members for crystal methodologies. But now we can say that the crystal methodologies that have been practically used in real projects are the crystal orange and the crystal clear. We have the crystal orange methodology, which was introduced in 1998, and it targets projects in category C4T, D4T, and E4T. We also have another variant for web development, which is called Crystal Orange Web. It was introduced in 2001. And it was proposed for web-based systems, developing web-based systems. And we also have the crystal clear methodology that was introduced in 4, and it primarily targets C6 and D6 projects. So for small projects and not very critical projects. Here we have a picture showing different crystal family members. We have the crystal clear methodology, crystal yellow, orange, and red. Crystal clear targets projects at categories C6 and D6, C level comfort level, discretionary money level, D, and for teams up to 6 people. The yellow methodology is for level C, level D, and level E, and with up to 20 people in the development team. C20, E20, and D20. Crystal orange targets level C, level D, and level E, but for development teams with up to 40 people involved, C40, D40, and E40. And crystal red, appropriate for level C, level D, and level E, and for teams up to 80 people. So for categories C80, D80, and E80. As you see in the picture, the crystal methodologies are not appropriate for level L. We cannot develop softwares at level L, softwares that are safety critical, very highly critical, with the crystal family. It's very important to note that we cannot develop very critical systems with the crystal methodology. Okay, before going to the common traits, and yes, Mr. Zoraid, for crystal orange, we have up to 40 people. We cannot handle more than 40 people. And Mr. Ali Yasseri losing a life, not this development team, from the users. Losing a life by the losing a life of the final users. Yes, Mr. Zoraid, it is sorted by complexity. Here is the more complex, and here is the less complex. More complex, the most complex, the less complex. Yes, Mr. Zoraid, it's correct. Okay. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Mr. Ali Yasseri. Thank you, Mr. Zoraid, for your good questions. Okay. Okay, we can finish our today's session. In the next session, I will continue the crystal methodology, and we can finish this slide in the next session. So if you have any question, please ask your question. If you don't have any question, finish our today's for the interruptions that I had in today's session because of my weak internet. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating in our today's session. Have a good time and good luck. Thank you very much. خدا نگهدار. خدا حافظ.